My fiancée rolled her eyes and said, "Here we go again, another insecure man speech," when I brought up her study sessions. I stayed silent until her bestie slipped up. Then I did this, and she lost her mind. All right, Reddit. I caught my fiancée cheating, so I moved out of my own apartment while she was with her side piece. She ended up stalking me like a discount Ethan Hunt. But here's the thing. I never felt more secure than in the house she'll never step foot in. Here's how it all unfolded. I, 27 male, thought I had my life figured out. 3 years with my fiancée Zoe, 25 female, who was this brilliant graphic design student with big dreams and a bigger attitude. We'd been engaged for 8 months, living in my apartment because, I'm the one with the actual income while she focused on her studies. Here's where it gets interesting. I'd been secretly shopping for houses for months. Found this perfect place about 20 minutes outside the city. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, garage, the works. I was planning to surprise her after graduation with the keys to our future. Had the down payment saved, good credit, stable job. I was going to be the guy who swooped in with the dream house right when she needed it most. So as I said, the apartment lease was in my name only. My choice, my credit, my problem if things went south. I covered rent, utilities, groceries, car insurance, basically everything that cost money. Zoe contributed by occasionally buying coffee and complaining about how expensive everything was. Real team player. Now I need to introduce you to the legend. My best friend Silas. Silas thought I was nuts for carrying the whole financial load, but he's also the kind of guy who finds humor in watching people dig their own graves. Tall, sarcastic, with this gift for saying exactly what you're thinking, but 10 times funnier. He'd been my roommate in college, and now he was the guy I called when I needed someone to tell me I wasn't losing my mind. Silas had opinions about Zoe from day one, but he kept them mostly to himself. Mostly. He'd make these little comments like, "That's interesting," whenever she'd explain why she couldn't contribute to rent that month, or "good for her," when she'd announce another girl's night that somehow required me to fund her Uber home. The guy had actually tried to warn me 6 months earlier. We were at a bar and he goes, "Bro, you know what's weird? Zoe never talks about the future with you in it. Like, ever. It's always when I graduate or when I get my career going. Never when we do this or when we move there." I brushed it off back then. I didn't think much of it. Anyways, the engagement happened because I thought that's what you do when you've been with someone for 3 years and you're ready to level up. I mean, why not? 3 years of my time should be worth it. Yeah, famous final words. Zoe said yes, posted about it all over social media, started planning this elaborate wedding that somehow kept getting more expensive every time we talked about it. I figured we'd get married, move to the house, and start building something real together. What I didn't figure was that while I was building our future, she was building whatever. I'm getting ahead of myself. Here's the thing about being a logistics manager. You get really good at spotting when things don't add up. The weird stuff started about 2 months ago. Zoe, who used to be home by 8 most nights, suddenly had all these late study sessions. "Group project with Claire and Daisy," she'd say, grabbing her keys in this little overnight bag like she was going on some academic expedition. Claire and Daisy were her college friends. Claire was the responsible one who actually seemed to study. And Daisy was, well, Daisy was about as sharp as a bowling ball and twice as likely to roll into traffic. Sweet girl, but keeping secrets wasn't exactly her strong suit. Eomologer. I'm spoiling it. Wait. These study sessions were happening 3, sometimes 4 nights a week. Zoe would leave around 7, come home after midnight, and immediately hit the shower. Every time. Like clockwork. She'd say they were working on some major portfolio project, but when I'd ask specifics, she'd get vague and irritated. "You wouldn't understand the creative process," she'd say, which was her polite way of calling me a boring guy who couldn't appreciate art. Fair enough, except I'd been dating an art student for 3 years and had sat through more portfolio reviews than I could count. I knew what real design work looked like, and it didn't usually require midnight showers. Then there was the phone situation. Zoe's phone used to sit on the coffee table, face up, no big deal. Suddenly it was face down, always on silent, and she'd take it with her to the bathroom. When I'd walk into the room while she was texting, she'd flip it over or minimize whatever she was looking at. Classic. The attitude shift was the real tell, though. Zoe went from being occasionally moody to being consistently dismissive. I'd ask about her day, and she'd respond like I was bothering her. I'd suggest dinner plans, and she'd roll her eyes like I was some clingy boyfriend interrupting her important life. But here's where things got really interesting. I started paying attention to Claire's social media, because if they were really spending 3 nights a week working together, there'd be evidence. Coffee cups from late-night study sessions, complaints about how tired she was. Something. Instead, Claire's Instagram showed her at home most nights, posting pictures of her cat and whatever Netflix show she was binge watching. Tuesday night, while Zoe was supposedly at Claire's place working on layouts, Claire posted a story about making dinner and watching rom-coms alone. Wednesday, same thing. Claire at home, posting about having the place to herself to work. Either Claire was the most dedicated liar on social media, or Zoe's study sessions weren't happening where she said they were. I started noticing other small things too. Zoe would mention specific details about what they were working on. Logo designs for a fictional restaurant, branding packages for made-up companies. But when I'd casually bring up these projects in conversation with Claire at a coffee shop a few days later, she'd look confused. Restaurant branding? No, we're working on personal portfolio pieces this semester. Individual stuff. Zoe mentioned you guys were collaborating on some client work. Oh, well, maybe she meant something else. Claire was trying to be diplomatic, but the confusion was real. Either Zoe was describing their work completely wrong, or there wasn't any collaborative work happening at all. The coffee thing was another breadcrumb. Zoe started bringing home fancy coffee from this place called Grind Coffee, which was nowhere near campus or Claire's apartment. When I asked about it, she said they'd started meeting there because it was better for creative work. But when I looked it up, Grind Coffee was in a completely different part of town, nowhere convenient to anything related to her school or friends. Why drive 20 minutes out of your way for coffee? I asked. The atmosphere is better, less distracting. Right. I decided to test this. The next day, I stopped by Grind Coffee on my lunch break. Asked the barista if she knew a regular customer named Zoe, described her too. She recognized her. Blonde girl? She comes sometimes, but no, I haven't seen her with friends. Oh, I said thanks and left. I called Silas after that conversation. Dude, he said, I'm not saying she's definitely cheating, but if it walks like a duck and showers like a duck, I don't want to be that guy who accuses his fiancée of cheating just because she's been acting weird. No, you want to be the guy who figures out what's actually happening before he marries someone who might be playing house with multiple people. My bro had this way of cutting through the noise. He wasn't telling me what to think. He was telling me to think, period. Look, he said, either she's actually working on the world's most time-consuming group project, or she's working on something else entirely. Either way, you deserve to know what you're dealing with. The gaslighting started a few days later. I asked Zoe why she'd been coming home so late, and she immediately flipped it on me. Are you seriously questioning me right now? What's next? You want to track my location? I'm just asking. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're being controlling. It's not attractive. Controlling. For asking my fiancée why she was out until midnight every night. That was rich. I'm not trying to control anything. I'm trying to understand why my fiancée treats me like a roommate she barely tolerates. God, you're so insecure. Maybe if you trusted me instead of interrogating me every time I walk through the door, we'd have a better relationship. There it was. The magic word that was supposed to shut down any reasonable questions. But she wasn't done. She'd figured out that calling me insecure was an effective way to end conversations, so she started using it as her default response to any question I asked. When I mentioned that she'd been spending a lot of money on gas lately, you're being insecure about money again. When I asked why she'd gotten home at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. This insecurity thing is getting old, Damien. Every legitimate concern I had about our relationship got twisted into a character flaw on my part. It was like she'd found a cheat code for avoiding accountability. The worst one happened about a week before everything blew up. I'd had a long day at work and came home hoping to just hang out with my fiancé, maybe order takeout and watch something together. Normal couple stuff. Zoe was getting ready to leave for another study session. Want to stay in tonight instead? I asked. We could order from that Thai place you like. She stopped putting on her jacket and turned to look at me like I'd just asked her to give up oxygen. Seriously? You want me to blow off my education so you can feel better about yourself? I just want to spend time with you. Is that weird? It's needy. And honestly, it's embarrassing how insecure you get when I have my own life. Having your own life is great. Having a secret life is different, Zoe. See? That's exactly what I'm talking about. You think everything I do is some conspiracy against you. That's not healthy, Damien. She grabbed her keys and overnight bag. I'm going to work on my portfolio with people who don't need constant validation. Maybe you should think about why you can't handle your fiancé being successful. And she left. Just walked out after turning a simple request for dinner into a referendum on my character and her success. I stopped asking questions after that. Not because I believed her, but because I realized she finally dug her own grave. Time to stop playing defense and start playing the game properly. You know what's great about being the guy who pays all the bills? You have access to all the bills, including the phone bill that Zoe never bothered to look at because, hey, someone else was handling the boring financial stuff. 3 days after the insecure conversation, I'm the plan owner, so I logged in and pulled up our phone records online. Zoe's number had been calling one specific number almost every night for the past 6 weeks, sometimes for hours. Never during the day, always after 7 p.m., usually until well past midnight. A paid reverse lookup on the number gave me the name, rough address, and social media profile. The guy was 34, had his own apartment about 15 minutes from campus, and worked in marketing. Definitely not a student, definitely not part of any group project, and definitely not Claire or Daisy. His LinkedIn showed he worked for a digital marketing firm downtown. His Instagram was full of photos from expensive restaurants, weekend trips, and his apartment, which, and this was the kicker, had Grind Coffee branded mugs visible in several kitchen shots. Mystery solved. Zoe wasn't driving 20 minutes out of her way for better coffee atmosphere. She was driving 20 minutes to see this guy, and he'd been buying her fancy coffee while I paid for everything else in her life. I screenshotted everything and sent it to Silas. His response was immediate. Well, that's not awkward at all. Then Silas sent another text. Wait, check this out. He'd reverse searched the guy's address and found out something interesting. The apartment complex? Same one where Zoe had been looking at backup options 3 months ago, claiming she wanted to be prepared in case our lease didn't get renewed. She'd even dragged me there to look at floor plans. Guess she found what she was looking for. The next part was just me having a little fun. You see, if Zoe was lying about studying with Claire and Daisy, then Claire and Daisy would know she was lying. The question was whether they'd tell me the truth or cover for her. I started with Claire. Caught her at the coffee shop on campus where she usually studied. Hey, quick question. How's that portfolio project going? Zoe's been putting in some serious hours on it. Claire looked confused for about half a second. Then her face did this weird thing where she was clearly trying to figure out what the right answer was. Oh yeah, it's coming along. Lots of work. I bet. She's been out until midnight at least 3 times this week working on it with you guys. Right. Yeah. We're really dedicated. The pause between really and dedicated was about 3 seconds too long. She was a terrible liar. Daisy, on the other hand, was a piece of work. I found her in the student center the next day, and she didn't even try to maintain the fiction. How's the group project going? I asked. What group project? The one Zoe's been working on with you and Claire. The big portfolio thing. Daisy's face went blank, then panicked, then resigned. Oh no, no. She told you we were working together? Real subtle. This girl was basically a goldfish with ADH, trying to play chess. She said she's been studying with you guys 3 or 4 nights a week. Oh, well, I haven't seen Zoe outside of class in like a month. Claire and I have been wondering why she's... And then she kept going. I mean, we invited her to movie night last Friday, and she said was too busy with her portfolio, but Claire saw her at a restaurant with... She trailed off, finally realizing what she'd just said. Wait, why are you asking me? Yeah, I just asked the right person. Thanks, Daisy. Oh my God. She slapped her mouth. See you around. There it was. Confirmation that my fiancé had been lying to my face for weeks while I paid her bills and planned our wedding. I walked back to my car. No sadness, no dramatic moment of realization. I was just pissed this woman just wasted 3 years of my life. So I called Silas from the parking lot. So, scale of 1 to 10, how badly do I want to know what you found out? Remember when you said Daisy was a human megaphone? Oh no, she slipped, didn't she? She didn't slip. She dove headfirst into the truth. Zoe hasn't been studying with them at all. And apparently Claire saw her at some restaurant with the guy last weekend. There was a pause. I'm sorry, man. That sucks. Yeah, it does, but whatever. Yes, screw them. What's the plan? I need to document everything I can before I make any moves. Smart. Evidence first, revenge later. Who said anything about revenge? Dude, I have known you since freshman year, and I'm pretty sure you ain't gonna let that bish get away with it. Well, he was right. Here's the thing about being methodical. It pays off when someone's trying to screw you over. The apartment lease was in my name only, which meant legally, Zoe was just a guest who'd been staying there for 2 years. I spent the next week documenting everything. Photos of all my belongings, receipts for furniture, proof of purchase for electronics, bank statements showing who'd been paying for what. I also tracked every expense I'd covered for Zoe over the past year. Rent, utilities, groceries, car insurance, gas money, coffee runs, dinners out, everything. The house purchase had been moving forward independently of all this drama. I'd already been approved for the mortgage, the inspection was clean, and closing was scheduled for the following Wednesday. Perfect timing, really. By Thursday, I'd have a new address that Zoe had never seen and would never see. Silas came over that weekend to help me figure out logistics. He walked through the apartment, making notes about what was mine, what was Zoe's, and what we'd bought together. "This is like the world's most depressing episode of Judge Judy," he said, taking pictures of serial numbers on my electronics. "Except you're both the judge and the winner. I'm not trying to win anything. I just want out without getting screwed over." "Right, but if you're getting out anyway, might as well make it memorable." That's when Silas suggested the note. "Your insecure fiancé moved out. Lease ends this month. Figure it out. P.S. Daisy says hi." Zoe would immediately know that her story had fallen apart because Daisy couldn't keep secrets, which meant she'd probably blame Daisy instead of taking responsibility for her own choices. The plan was coming together beautifully. On Wednesday, I'd close on the house. On Thursday, while Zoe was out with her mystery man, I'd move everything out and leave her with an empty apartment, a lease that was ending, and the consequences of her own actions. "You realize she's going to lose her mind, right?" Silas said as we finished planning. "That's the point." "Good." Wednesday's closing went perfectly. The house was everything I'd hoped for. And more importantly, it was mine. No shared anything, no complications, no one else's name on any paperwork. Just a clean, fresh start in a place that represented actual forward momentum. Thursday morning, I took a personal day from work and called the moving company. Time to execute. The beauty of dating someone predictable is that you always know where they'll be. Zoe had another study session scheduled for Thursday night, which meant she'd be gone from 7 p.m. until well after midnight. Plenty of time to relocate my entire life. The movers showed up at 6:30. I'd already packed most of my personal stuff over the past few days, so it was mainly furniture, electronics, and boxes. Silas arrived right behind them with coffee, and this expression like he was about to watch the world's most satisfying home renovation show. "Gentlemen," he announced to the moving crew, "today we are relocating a man's dignity. Please handle with care." I'd hired good movers, the kind who don't ask questions about why someone's moving out of their own apartment while leaving half the stuff behind. They just moved boxes, loaded furniture, and collected their check. Watching my stuff disappear from the apartment was satisfying. The couch I'd bought, gone. The TV I'd saved for, gone. The bed I'd been sleeping in while my fiancé texted other guys, definitely gone. All of it heading to a house that represented an actual future instead of whatever weird game I'd been playing for the past year. Zoe's stuff stayed exactly where it was. Her stuff, her problem. The closing packet and spreadsheet went on the kitchen counter right next to the note. Silas added a calculator. Right before we left, Silas goes, "Hold up," and disappears into the bathroom. Comes back with Zoe's expensive shampoo and conditioner, the stuff that costs like $40 a bottle. "Consider it a moving expense," he said, tossing them in his bag. By 10 p.m., the apartment was empty of everything that mattered to me. The movers headed to the new house, and Silas and I did one final walkthrough to make sure we hadn't missed anything. "You know what's weird?" Silas said, looking around at the empty living room. "This place looks bigger without your stuff in it. That's because most of the furniture was mine. The house was going to be something real." We locked up and headed to the new place. The movers were already unloading when we got there, and seeing my stuff in the new space felt like everything was falling into place. Bigger rooms, better light, a garage for my car, and a yard where I could actually do something other than stare at other apartment buildings. "This is nice," Silas said, looking around the living room. "Like, really nice. She's going to hate that she'll never see it. That's not why I bought it." "I know, but it's a nice bonus." We spent the next few hours getting basic stuff set up. Bed, TV, coffee maker. Enough to be functional while I figured out the rest. The house felt different from the apartment immediately. More space, more potential. More like a place where someone could actually build something instead of just existing. Setting up the bedroom was surprisingly satisfying. New mattress, new sheets, everything fresh and completely mine. No shared closet space. No compromise on furniture placement. No one else's stuff cluttering up the space. Just my things in my house, arranged exactly how I wanted them. The kitchen was probably the biggest upgrade. Real counter space, a dishwasher that actually worked. Enough room for two people to cook without bumping into each other. Not that I was planning on sharing it with Zoe anytime soon. But someday, with someone who deserved to see it. By midnight, I was officially moved into my new life. My phone had been on silent all evening, but when I checked it before going to sleep, there were no missed calls or texts from Zoe. She was still out, probably still lying to someone about where she'd been for the past 8 months. I set my alarm for the usual time, plugged in my phone, and went to sleep in my new house. Tomorrow, Zoe would come home to an empty apartment and a note explaining why. My phone started buzzing at 6:47 a.m. 12 missed calls, all from Zoe. Then the text started. What the hell? Where is everything? Call me right now. This is insane. I turned off my phone and went to work. Let her figure it out the same way I'd had to figure out her lies by herself. Silas texted me around lunch. Did you see the nuclear fallout yet? I turned my phone back on. 35 missed calls. Dozens of texts ranging from confusion to anger to what appeared to be bargaining. The progression was almost textbook. The best part was that she was clearly trying different strategies in real time. First, it was anger and demands. Then it was confusion and hurt feelings. Then it was trying to negotiate like we were still in a relationship. We need to talk about this like adults. I can explain everything. You're being childish. I never meant for this to happen. Then came the really desperate stuff. I know you're getting these messages. This is crazy, Damien. You can't just leave. Please just call me back so we can figure this out. I didn't call back. I finished my work, went to the grocery store, and spent my first evening in the new house setting up my office and ordering furniture online. Around 9 p.m., I got a text from an unknown number. Hey man, this is Marcus. I think we need to talk. The marketing guy had found my number somehow. I didn't reply. Whatever he had to say could wait forever. Friday morning brought a new development. Zoe showed up at my job. I work in a logistics center, which means there's a front office with customer service people and a secure area where the actual work happens. Zoe somehow convinced someone at the front desk to call me because she had an emergency she needed to discuss. When I came out to the lobby, she was pacing around like a caged animal, mascara smeared, wearing yesterday's clothes. The same clothes she'd been wearing when she left for her study session the night before. You can't just disappear, she said, loud enough that everyone in the lobby could hear. We're engaged. We live together. You can't just move out without talking to me. We live together, I corrected. Past tense. And we were engaged. Also past tense. This is ridiculous. You're throwing away 3 years because of what, some misunderstanding? I'm not throwing away anything. I'm just cleaning up a mess. That's when she really lost it. Started crying, then yelling, then crying while yelling. Are you abandoning me? How can you be so heartless? You promised me a future. You can't just take it back. You left me with nothing. How am I supposed to pay rent? How am I supposed to eat? Figure it out. The crying got louder. I can't believe you're being this cruel. Over some stupid fight about trust? You need to leave, I calmly said. No, I am not leaving before we make things right. Now. Sucks to suck, Zoe. There's nothing to fix. Just leave now. Yelling won't give you anything. Damien, please just let's talk, okay? He means nothing to me. I love only you. I was just stressing about the wedding and wanted to. I'd held it together for weeks. Then I snapped, shut the hell up. I don't want to hear one more word from you. Get the hell out of here. I'm done wasting time. The front desk called security, and I got to watch her get escorted out of my workplace while my coworkers pretended not to stare. She was still yelling as they walked her to the parking lot. You can't just throw people when things get difficult. How cruel you are. My supervisor pulled me aside afterward. Is everything okay at home? It is. Been there, brother. My ex-wife tried the same workplace ambush when I filed for divorce. Just keep documentation of everything. And if she shows up again, we'll handle it. The family pressure started that weekend. Zoe had apparently called my parents, her parents, and several mutual friends, with some version of the story where I'd abandoned her, without warning because of my trust issues. My mom called Saturday morning. Honey, I just talked to Zoe. She's really upset. She said you moved out while she was studying. She wasn't studying, Mom. What do you mean? I explained about the phone records, the lies about studying with Claire and Daisy's confession. Mom got quiet for a long minute. Oh, well, that changes things. Yeah, it does. Are you okay? I'm great. My dad was more direct when he called an hour later. Your mother told me what happened. You did the right thing. Thanks, Dad. That girl always seemed a little too comfortable spending your money. I never said anything because you seemed happy, but I know, I should have seen it sooner. It's all right, cheaper than divorce. Don't beat yourself up about it. But the best call came from Zoe's dad. This guy who'd been planning to walk his daughter down the aisle to marry me called to apologize. Son, I had no idea what she was doing. Her mother and I are mortified. We raised her better than this. Even her own parents were on my side. The friend group drama was the real entertainment, though. Silas had connections to their social circle through Claire, so he got the play-by-play of how everything imploded. Zoe's first move was blaming Claire for not being a convincing enough liar. She called Claire at 2 a.m., crying about how it was Claire's fault I found out. Claire, who'd been feeling like crap about lying for months, finally told Zoe that if she hadn't wanted to get caught cheating, maybe she shouldn't have been cheating. Then she hung up. So Zoe pivoted to blaming Daisy for ruining her relationship. Big mistake. Turns out Daisy didn't even know Zoe was actually cheating. When Zoe started screaming at her, Daisy was like, "Wait, you were actually cheating? I thought you were just being weird about school stress." Oh my God, that's so much worse. No wonder he left. From there, it was pure chaos. Claire took Daisy's side, other friends picked sides, and within a week their entire friend group had imploded. Claire and Daisy stayed tight but wanted nothing to do with Zoe. The best part? Daisy kept accidentally making things worse for Zoe by telling people details she didn't realize were secrets. And when Zoe tried telling people I was controlling and jealous, Daisy would turn around and mention how I was paying for Zoe's coffee and gas money while she was seeing some other guy. Made it pretty hard for Zoe to paint me as the villain. The social media meltdown was the cherry on top. Zoe posted one of those vague relationship posts about how some men can't handle strong, independent women, and how she was better off without someone who didn't trust her. The comments section was brutal. People who knew what had actually happened started sharing the real story. Someone mentioned the empty apartment and the spreadsheet. Someone else mentioned that she'd been living off her ex's money while cheating on him. Daisy, because she was incapable of reading a room, commented, "I thought he left because you were cheating. That's what you told Claire." Within 6 hours, she deleted the post, but screenshots had already made the rounds. Her reputation in the design program basically tanked overnight. Turns out, when you're known for lying to your fiancé, people assume you might lie to classmates too. The funny thing? The marketing guy, Marcus, disappeared around the same time. Silas found out through Claire that he'd blocked Zoe everywhere once he realized he'd been dating someone who was engaged and living with another man. Apparently, she'd told him I was just a roommate. So in the span of 1 week, Zoe had lost her fiancé, her apartment, her financial support, her friend group, her reputation, and her boyfriend. She was back at her parents' house, broke, and facing a delayed graduation because her portfolio work had suffered while she was managing 2 relationships. I, meanwhile, was setting up my new home office and planning which room would become a gym. The whole situation would have been almost sad if it weren't so completely self-inflicted. 2 weeks later, Silas called with an update. Guess what your ex is up to now? Zoe had apparently started sliding into DMs of guys from her design program, telling them her ex-fiancé was financially abusive, and she needed someone to help her get back on her feet. The desperation was real. Things didn't end up here. There was one final act, and it was hilarious. So there I was, minding my own business at 11:30 p.m., when Silas calls me sounding way too amused for a Wednesday night. "Bro, you got yourself a midnight visitor." "What now?" "Check your window. Your ex-fiancé just leveled up to full-blown stalker mode." I peek through the blinds, and sure enough, there's Zoe sitting in her little Honda Civic, like some discount PI, phone pressed against her window taking pictures of my house. She'd been out there for like 40 minutes at this point. How'd she even find my address? Property records, genius. Takes 2 seconds on Google. But here's the thing. I'm about to go have a little chat with our aspiring photographer. "Silas, just leave it." Click. He'd already hung up. I watched him park right behind her car, boxing her in. Classic move. Then he strolled up to her window like he was approaching a drive-thru. All casual confidence. When he tapped on her glass, Zoe literally jumped so hard she probably got whiplash. She rolled the window down halfway, and even from across the street I could hear her voice getting shrill. "Silas? What the hell are you doing here?" "Oh, just neighborhood watch duty, making sure we don't have any weirdos lurking around taking creepy photos at midnight." "I'm not lurking. This is public property." He pulled out his phone and started recording. "Right, so just to be clear, you're sitting outside your ex-fiancé's house at nearly midnight, taking pictures of his windows. That's your official statement?" "Stop recording me!" She was full-on screeching now. "Nah, I think I'll keep this rolling. For legal purposes, you understand. In case we need to explain to the cops why you're out here acting like a discount secret agent. You can't record me without my consent. Watch me." He zoomed in on her license plate. "Just documenting the vehicle used in tonight's stalking expedition." That's when Zoe completely lost it. "Stalking? I'm just trying to see what kind of life he's living while I'm stuck back at my parents' house." "So this is your solution? Sitting outside at midnight? He turned everyone against me. You used to be my friend." "Nah, Zoe. I was friendly because you were with my boy. But friends don't lie to friends for months while planning weddings they have no intention of honoring. Friends don't. Shut up. Just shut the hell up. Getting a little defensive there. She tried to slam the car into drive, but Silas was still standing right there. Move your freaking car, Silas! Sure, weirdo. He held up his phone. Smile for the camera, Zoe. This is going straight to the group chat. That did it. She gunned the engine and swerved around his car, but instead of driving away, she whipped around the block and came back at him full speed. I watched this absolute lunatic actually try to run down my best friend with her car. Silas dove behind his car just as she clipped his side mirror, sending plastic flying across the street. She kept going, tires screaming, and disappeared around the corner. My phone was already dialing 911 when Silas called. Dude, this psycho tried to kill me. Are you okay? Yeah. She drives like she cheats. Lots of swerving but no real commitment. But we definitely got her on attempted assault with a deadly weapon. Please tell me you're still recording. Brother, I got the whole damn show. 20 minutes later, 2 cops showed up at my door. Silas had given them the full story and the video evidence. They found Zoe at her parents' house across town. Apparently, she'd called her mom crying about how unfair everything was and how Silas had attacked her. Her mom took one look at the video evidence the officers had and basically handed her daughter over. Ma'am, your daughter tried to run someone down with her car because he told her to stop stalking her ex-boyfriend. At midnight, while she was taking pictures of his house. The charges were aggravated assault with a vehicle, stalking, and reckless endangerment. Silas clipped a short snippet for the group chat, Zoe screeching about consent while stalking me, then flooring it at his car. Within an hour, everyone we knew had seen it. You know what's beautiful? Silas texted me later. She did more damage to her own reputation in 5 minutes than we could have done in 5 years. The restraining order went through without a fight. One night, and she'd gone from cheating ex to attempted murderer. The final kicker came a month later. I'm at Home Depot buying stuff for my new workshop when I run into guess who? Marcus, the marketing guy who messaged me. Man, I had no idea, he says. She told me you guys broke up months ago and you were just some controlling ex who wouldn't move out. I would never have gotten involved if I'd known. I just shrugged and said, no worries, you did me a favor anyways. He apologized before I finally walked away. That's what I call a self-solving problem.